Section. Introduction. In this paper, we're focusing on the challenge of creating consistent visual content across different contexts, a crucial aspect in many creative fields such as book illustration, brand creation, comic creation, presentation development, web page design, and more. Consistency is key in establishing brand identity, enhancing communication, and fostering emotional engagement. However, current text-to-image generative models struggle with maintaining this consistency, a problem we aim to solve. We're introducing the task of consistent character generation. Given a text description of a character, we aim to create a representation that allows for consistent depictions of that character in various contexts. While we use the term characters in this paper, our work can be applied to any visual subject. For instance, an illustrator working on a plasticine cat character might use a text-to-image model to generate different versions of the cat. However, these versions might lack consistency. We aim to create a consistent representation of the cat that can be used in different contexts. Text-to-image generative models are popular, and the need for consistent character generation has led to various solutions. Some use celebrity names in prompts to create consistent human characters, while others manually filter image variations for similarity. However, these solutions are often ad hoc and labor-intensive. We propose a fully automatic, principled approach to consistent character generation. Previous academic work related to our project has focused on personalization and story generation. Some methods use several user-provided images to create a representation of a character. Others can't generalize to new characters not in the training data, or rely on textual inversion of an existing human face depiction. We argue that the goal is often to generate a consistent character, not necessarily to visually match a specific appearance. We aim to create a consistent representation of a character based on a single natural language description, without needing any images of the target character. This allows for the creation of a new, consistent character that doesn't necessarily resemble any existing visual depiction. Our solution to consistent character generation assumes that a large set of generated images for a certain prompt will contain groups of images with shared characteristics. We can extract a representation that captures these shared characteristics, and use this representation to increase the consistency among the generated images, while still staying true to the original input prompt. We generate a gallery of images based on the text prompt, embed them in a Euclidean space using a pre-trained feature extractor, cluster these embeddings, and choose the most cohesive cluster. This cluster is used as input for a personalization method that attempts to extract a consistent identity. We then generate another gallery of images, which should be more consistent, while still depicting the input prompt. This process is repeated until convergence. We evaluate our method against several baselines, both quantitatively and qualitatively, and conduct a user study. We also present several applications of our method. In summary, we formalize the task of consistent character generation, propose a novel solution to this task, and evaluate our method to demonstrate its effectiveness. Related work in the field of text-to-image generation has shown impressive capabilities in generating high-quality images from natural language text descriptions. These models are becoming essential tools for creative vision tasks. However, they struggle with maintaining consistency of a character in new contexts. Some methods use several images of the same instance to encapsulate new priors in the generative model, but these methods often require a collection of images depicting the subject, limiting their ability to generate any imaginary character. Moreover, when trained on a single input image, these methods tend to overfit and produce similar images with minimal diversity during inference. Our method, on the other hand, does not require an input image. It can generate consistent and diverse images of the same character based only on a text description. Section Summary. In this section, the authors introduce the task of consistent character generation, where they aim to generate visually consistent depictions of a character based on a text prompt. They propose a fully automatic approach that extracts a consistent representation of the character by clustering generated images and iteratively refining the representation. Their method does not require any input images of the target character and can create a novel consistent character that does not resemble any existing visual depiction. The authors evaluate their method quantitatively and qualitatively, demonstrating its effectiveness in generating consistent characters. Section. Story visualization. We're going to talk about the concept of story visualization, specifically focusing on the generation of consistent characters. This is a well-researched area, with early works using generative adversarial networks, GANs, and a story discriminator to align images and text. More recent developments, like Story.E and Make a Story, use pre-trained text-to-image (T2I) models for image generation, and train an adapter model to embed story captions and previous images into the T2I model. However, these methods have limitations, as they can't create new characters outside of their training datasets. Zheng's work is a bit different. They create consistent storybooks by combining text inversion with a phase-swapping mechanism. But their work depends on images of existing human-like characters. Tailcrafter offers a comprehensive pipeline for storybook visualization, but their consistent character module is based on an existing personalization method that requires fine-tuning on several images of the same character. There have been other attempts to achieve consistent character generation using a generative model. These methods often involve manual, labor-intensive tricks like using text tokens of a celebrity or a combination of celebrities to create a consistent human character. However, these characters often resemble the original celebrities, and this approach doesn't work for other character types, like animals. Some users have suggested ensuring consistency by manually crafting very long and elaborate text prompts, or by using image variations and filtering them manually by similarity. Others have suggested generating a full design sheet of a character, then manually filtering the best results for further generation. These methods are manual, labor-intensive, and specific to certain domains, like humans. In contrast, our method is fully automated and can be applied to any domain. Our goal is to generate consistent images of a character or another kind of visual subject, based on a textual description. We do this by iteratively customizing a pre-trained text-to-image model, using sets of images generated by the model itself as training data. Essentially, we refine the representation of the target character by repeatedly guiding the model's output towards a consistent identity. Once the process has converged, the resulting model can generate consistent images of the target character in new contexts. Formally, we start with a text-to-image model, which is defined by a set of parameters. These parameters include a set of model weights and a set of custom text embeddings. We're looking for a representation that allows the parameterized model to generate consistent images of the character described by a text prompt in new contexts. Our approach is based on the idea that a large set of images generated by the model for the same text prompt, but with different seeds, will reflect the non-uniform density of the manifold of generated images. In other words, we expect to find some groups of images with shared characteristics. We can use the common features among the images in one of these groups to refine the representation to better capture and fit the target. We propose to iteratively cluster the generated images, and use the most cohesive cluster to refine the representation. This process is repeated until convergence. We start each iteration by using the current representation to generate a collection of images, each corresponding to a different random seed. Each image is embedded in a high-dimensional semantic embedding space, using a feature extractor, to form a set of embeddings. In our experiments, we use DINOV2 as the feature extractor. Next, we use the k-means++ algorithm to cluster the embeddings of the generated images according to cosine similarity in the embedding space. We filter the resulting collection of clusters by removing all clusters whose size is below a predefined threshold, as it was shown that personalization algorithms are prone to overfitting on small datasets. Among the remaining clusters, we choose the most cohesive one to serve as the input for the identity extraction stage. We define the cohesion of a cluster as the average distance between the members of the cluster and its centroid. In a visualization of the DINOV2 embedding space, where the high-dimensional embeddings are projected into 2D using t-SNE and colored according to their k-means++ clusters, some of the embeddings are clustered together more tightly than others. The most cohesive cluster, represented by the color black, is chosen for further processing. Section summary. In the field of story visualization, consistent character generation has been extensively studied. Previous methods, such as using pre-trained models or manual techniques, have limitations in generalizing to novel characters or being labor-intensive. In contrast, our fully automated and domain-agnostic method iteratively customizes a pre-trained text-to-image model using generated images to achieve consistent character generation based on a textual description. We employ clustering and representation refinement to capture the shared characteristics of the generated images and refine the model's representation until convergence. Section. Identity extraction. We're working on a process to extract a consistent identity from a diverse set of images. Sometimes, even the most cohesive group of images can still show an inconsistent identity, as seen in our figures. This means that the representation we've created isn't quite ready for consistent generation. To refine it, we train on the images in this group to extract a more consistent identity. We use text-to-image personalization methods to do this. These methods aim to extract a character from a set of images that already depict a consistent identity. Even though our set of images isn't completely consistent, these methods can still distill a common identity from them because the images are chosen based on their semantic similarity to each other. Our solution is based on a pre-trained model called Stable Diffusion XL, SDXL, which uses two text encoders. We add a new pair of textual tokens, one for each of the two text encoders. However, we found that this wasn't expressive enough, so we also update the model weights via low-rank adaptation of the self and cross-attention layers of the model. We use a standard denoising loss, where the chosen cluster, the VAE encoder of SDXL, the sample's noise, the time step, and the latent noise to time step are all taken into account. We optimize over the union of the low-rank adaptation weights and the newly added textual tokens. This process is performed iteratively. The representation extracted in each iteration is used to generate the set of images for the next iteration. These images are then funneled into a consistent identity. We don't use a fixed number of iterations, but instead apply a convergence criterion that allows for early stopping. After each iteration, we calculate the average pairwise Euclidean distance between all embeddings of the newly generated images, and stop when this distance is smaller than a predefined threshold. It's important to note that our method is non-deterministic. This means that if we run our method multiple times on the same input prompt, different consistent characters will be generated. This aligns with the one-to-many nature of our task. We've conducted several experiments to compare our method against other techniques, both qualitatively and quantitatively. We've also conducted a user study and an ablation study, and we've demonstrated several applications of our method. In our comparisons, we found that our method is able to follow the prompt and maintain consistency, while generating appealing characters in different poses and viewing angles. We also found that there's an inherent trade-off between prompt similarity and identity consistency. However, our method achieves better identity consistency than other methods, which is significant from the user's perspective. Section Summary. The authors propose a method for extracting a consistent identity from a set of images that may exhibit inconsistent identities. They refine the representation by training on the images to extract a more consistent identity using text-to-image personalization methods. The method is iterative and converges when the average pairwise Euclidean distance between the generated image embeddings is smaller than a predefined threshold. Section. User Study. We carried out a user study to assess the effectiveness of our approach, utilizing the Amazon Mechanical Turk platform. The same prompts and samples from the comparison section were used, and participants were asked to rate the similarity of the prompts and the consistency of the identities on a scale of 1 to 5. To evaluate prompt similarity, participants were shown the target text prompt and the results from our method and the baseline methods, all on the same page. They were then asked to rate each image. For identity consistency, we compared our method and the baseline methods by randomly selecting pairs of images generated with different target prompts. Participants were asked to rate whether the images contained the same main character on a scale of 1 to 5. As shown in the figure on the right in the quantitative comparison and user study section, our method strikes a good balance between identity consistency and prompt similarity, outperforming the baseline methods. For more detailed information and statistical significance analysis, please refer to the supplementary material. We also conducted an ablation study for the following scenarios. 1. Without clustering. We skipped the clustering step and simply generated 5 images based on the input prompt. 2. Without LoRa. We simplified the optimizable representation in the identity extraction stage to only include the newly added text tokens, without the additional LoRa weights. 3. With reinitialization. Instead of using the latest representation in each optimization iteration, we reset it in each iteration. 4. Single iteration. We stopped after just one iteration, rather than iterating until convergence. As shown in the figure on the left in the quantitative comparison and user study section, all of these components are essential for achieving a consistent identity in the final result. Removing the clustering step hinders the identity extraction stage due to the diversity of the training set. Simplifying the representation leads to underfitting, as the model lacks sufficient parameters to accurately capture the identity. Reinitializing the representation in each iteration or performing a single iteration prevents the model from converging to a single identity. For a visual comparison of the ablation study and a comparison of alternative feature extractors, please refer to the supplementary material. Our method can be applied to various tasks, as shown in the applications figure. These include illustrating a story by dividing it into different scenes and using a consistent character throughout, local text-driven image editing by integrating blended latent diffusion to inject a consistent character into a specified location of a provided background image in a new pose specified by a text prompt, and generating a consistent character with additional pose control using ControlNet. For more details, please refer to the supplementary material.